I think the moment I realised that Simone was never going to come back was when I found out about the brain surgery. And obviously I was talking to her and praying that everything would be all right, but it just wasn't enough. Nothing we could have done. The damage was done. It was all too late. Every day I have survivor's guilt. I met Simone at primary school and we'd been friends since I was 4, and we just kept in contact ever since. She's just the closest friend I've ever had. We did a big trip when we were 20 and we went to China, Vietnam, Hong Kong, Thailand. We travelled around a lot of different countries together. We were just really good travel companions because we just worked well together. You know, we didn't annoy each other and things like that. We decided to do a trip to Cambodia and Laos. And initially it was just going to be Cambodia, but Simone then decided it would be a good idea to also do Laos at the same time because they're geographically very close. We met in Laos, I think it was the 4th day that we were poisoned. So I'd literally only been with her for 4 days and all of this happened. So that day we started the tipsy tubing early afternoon, which is where you float on rubber rings down the river. We were in a big group of people. We had a really good time. You just stop off at various bars on the route. We got to the end of that and we went back to the hostel for a few drinks because they had a 2-hour happy hour where they would provide free shots, and it was either vodka or whiskey shots. We don't drink shots generally, so we decided to buy some Sprite from the bar and then we chose to have it as a mixed drink. And I think we had around 5 or 6 drinks there. When we woke up the following morning to do a tour, I just remember feeling odd. I couldn't really describe it. One of our friends later described it as a feeling of being drunk, which is strange because we weren't drunk the night before. It was the group of 3 of us, and we all just decided that we felt very similar, and we all felt well enough to do the tour that we booked and paid for. We then went on to do the kayaking experience down the river, and that was when I knew there was something not quite right, but I couldn't really put my finger on what was wrong. Simone and I were just laying on the backs of these kayaks, not being able to use our arms. It just felt like I wanted to lay there and just look up above me at the sky and not do anything, and I just wanted to sleep. We actually had to go on to the next destination, so we had to get on a minibus. When we got back to the hostel, we had a couple of hours there, ate a small amount of food, and then got on our bus, which is where everything started to get worse, and Simone started being sick, and I had to get off of the bus to check on her, and that's when I fainted. I didn't know what was going on around me, so there wasn't really that much anxiety, or I just seemed to be on a different planet at the time. The conscious level was just not what it would normally be. Our other friend suggested we go to a hospital, which is what we did, but unfortunately they didn't know what it was. They couldn't diagnose us properly. In the end, our other friends suggested a private hospital, which is where we all ended up. We were all in hospital with metabolic acidosis, which is where the blood is too acidic and it causes an array of problems. And that was what we were told was a precursor to methanol poisoning. In Simone's case, it caused issues with her brain and her breathing. They did dialysis and everything they could for her, and it wasn't early enough. And 24 hours was really where her breathing started to change. She wasn't really able to look at me and focus on me anymore at that point. Probably around 24 to 48 hours after we went into ICU, we found out that Simone was unlikely to wake up from sedation, and that's when I spoke to the neurosurgeon, and he said that he would need to relieve the pressure on her brain because it was so swollen. So he was wanting to do a craniotomy to relieve the pressure, but he'd said to me it would be about 20% chance of it working. And then even with that, they'd need to do further surgeries as well. So I did have to call Simone's mum to communicate the brain surgery part. It was a horrendous phone call to make to let her know that information. It was just devastating. And obviously I was still unwell myself, so I was just so anxious and heartbroken and every emotion really. I think the moment I realised that Simone was never going to come back was when I found out about the brain surgery. I was talking to her and praying that everything would be all right. I mean, I'm not religious at all, but I was still praying, but it just wasn't enough. Nothing we could have done. The damage was done. It was all too late. The mass poisoning in Laos killed 6 people in total. I believe around 20 in general were affected. As far as my own health, I think everything's okay. I've been checked. I don't have any health problems as a result of the poisoning. When we got our methanol, like our blood methanol readings back, they were very, very high. I was only just off the cusp of having optic nerve damage, so really, really borderline. So I was really, really lucky to not have any complications at all. The whole thing mentally has been absolutely horrendous. As you would imagine, it's so hard to even contemplate and understand what went on. It is very difficult to grieve about something when you've gone through something as traumatic as this, because you've still got to process the trauma before you can properly grieve. Every day I have survivor's guilt, and I feel I should be doing more to get this message out. So that's why I'm here, and that's why I've made this petition to try and generate the awareness. I think that's the main thing for me, making sure that she hasn't died in vain. The petition that I've set up is a UK government petition, and it's to educate young people of the dangers of bootleg alcohol. So I'm hoping that this can be something that UK schools can educate on in the future, and that people don't have to go through this. I don't think anyone else should lose their best friend or their child over this when it is completely preventable with the right education. We're looking into funding as well for testing strips for methanol, so that people might be able to even test their drinks in future to see if there's methanol in them. I think the most important thing that people should know about Simone is that she wasn't stupid. She was a lawyer, and if it could happen to her, it could honestly happen to anyone. She was really bright. She knew what she was doing. She traveled really extensively, and it just shouldn't have happened.
She is seen. Are you?